Welcome to round 3 of the Ground Zero Racing GT3 League, and this week we've travelled 1500 kilometres all the way from Silverstone to Central Austria, more specifically the Red Bull Ring. The racing this week will kick off at 8 AM in-game with a 15-minute qualifier, followed with race 1, which will last approximately 30 minutes with 21 laps. There's then going to be a short 10-minute break for your snacks, of course, and then there's going to be a second qualifying session covering 14 laps over approximately 20 minutes, followed with the interviews of the race winners at the end of the evening. However, for the first time this season, it looks like we've got some rain. For the first 15 minutes of race 1, it's going to be raining, with the track staying wet throughout most of the race. It's going to be interesting to see how the drivers handle this one with pit strategies, tyre changes, and of course managing the car around the track. The weather for race 2 looks like it's going to be nice and clear, so the track should be nice and dry for our drivers later on this evening. This week we're getting our first onboard track guide with Pafalo behind the wheel of his number 98 SideMax McLaren around the Ring of the Bull in both dry and wet conditions. So here we go, heading up towards Rindit, braking at the 50 marker into the right, hitting the apex and back to the left, ever so slightly extending, braking again at the 50 marker to the inside and then back to the outside of Red Bull Mobile Corner. On this track we can extend onto the green sections of the curb without getting any penalties, which makes this track very unique compared with others. Looking for the 100 marker as we head up to Castrol Edge, straddling the yellow curb as we go round, of course extending onto the green curb as we then drift back over to the right of the track, heading up towards the big uphill corner towards Remus, drifting back to the left of the track and keeping to the left, looking for the 100 braking marker, slamming on, turning into the apex, going slightly over the yellow curb there, extending back onto the green and flooring it down the straight. Try and get the slipstream behind a nearby driver and try and overtake on the right hand side of the track so you can overtake on the inside of the next corner. Looking for the 100 braking mark as we head into Schlossgold, into the right and back over to the left. You can use the curbs here but try not to get too greedy as we head back over to the right of the track, looking for the 50 braking marker, hitting the brakes, then heading into the left. We can slightly go over the curb here, but it can unsettle your car. Over to the right, braking to the left as we go around Worth, as we accelerate through both of the long left and right handers. We're now heading up towards Rindit, looking for the 50 braking marker into the right and extending onto the left. Braking again after the 50 marker, cutting the corner ever so slightly there, back over to the outside, of course extending on the green as we head up to the timing line. That was a full lap in the dry, but let's see how Pafalo does in wet conditions. Here we are on the wet lap heading into Rindert, braking at the 50 marker into the right of the track, not hitting the apex, going slightly wide onto the green curb, cutting the corner at Red Bull Mobile onto the outside of the track, extending onto the green and down the straight. This lap's going to demonstrate some of the wet lines, and I'm also going to highlight some of the places to avoid where puddles accumulate. Of course, looking for the 100 braking marker into Castrol Edge corner, straddling the yellow curb again, back onto the outside and accelerating down the straight, or up the straight of course, because this is an uphill section here. We're now going to drift over from the right of the track to the left as we get ready for the 100 braking marker, of course slamming on and turning to the right and hitting the apex. Bit twitchy of course, and accelerating back out onto the back straight here. The next section is going to be a little bit tricky, so we do want to be trying to avoid those curbs when they're wet because they will accumulate some pretty hefty puddles. Braking at the 100 marker, of course, turning into the right. We are going to use a bit of the curb here, over to the left, avoiding that curb because if we go on it while accelerating we will spin out. Back over to the right, looking for that 50 marker, braking a little early. Into the left, avoiding the curb again because we don't want to be spinning out here. Over to the curb on the right, braking, and to the left again, avoiding that curb. There's going to be some hefty puddles over there. Avoiding the curb on the right, and then back over to the left again as we head up towards Rindit Corner for the final time. Looking for that 50 braking marker, braking, then turning into the corner over the curb slightly, extending onto the green. Very sideways there for a moment, back onto the green again on the outside, and of course back along the main straight towards the timing line for the final time. And that was your wet lap with Pafalo. Now we've seen how it's done in the dry and wet, let's go racing. Ryan and Jamie, over to you.